Hey everyone, welcome to our channel. Today, we are going to deep into Nicolás Maduro Moros, one of the most controversial political leaders of the 21st century. Rising from a working-class background to become the President of Venezuela, his life story is deeply intertwined with the country's political upheavals, ideological struggles, and economic collapse. To supporters, Maduro represents resistance against foreign domination and the continuation of socialist ideals championed by Hugo Chavez. To critics, he symbolizes authoritarianism, economic mismanagement, and democratic decline. Understanding Maduro requires examining not only his presidency but the social, ideological, and historical forces that shaped him. Early life and family background 196-21979. Nicolás Maduro was born on November 23, 1962 in Caracas, Venezuela, during a period of democratic transition. Venezuela had recently emerged from military dictatorship and was governed by a civilian political system fueled by oil wealth. Despite national prosperity, wealth was unevenly distributed, and working-class families like Maduro's remained economically vulnerable. His father, Nicolás Maduro Garcia, was a trade union activist with strong left-wing beliefs. His mother, Teresa de Jesus Moros, was a devout Catholic homemaker. Maduro grew up in a modest household where political discussions were common, especially around labor rights, inequality, and social justice. This environment deeply influenced his worldview. Raised in the working-class district of El Valle, Maduro witnessed stark contrasts between wealth and poverty. These early experiences shaped his belief that Venezuela's political system favored elites at the expense of ordinary citizens. Education and ideological formation. Maduro attended public schools in Caracas but did not complete a university education. Instead, his intellectual development came through political reading, activism, and self-education. As a teenager, he became interested in socialist and revolutionary thought, reading works by Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, Vladimir Lenin, and Latin American revolutionaries such as Simon Bolivar and Che Guevara. The Cold War context and the Cuban Revolution strongly influenced his political thinking. Maduro viewed capitalism as exploitative and imperialism as a major obstacle to Latin American independence. These beliefs would later become central to his political rhetoric and policy choices. Bus driver and union activist. In the early 1980s, Maduro began working as a bus driver for the Caracas metro system. This job placed him directly within Venezuela's urban working class. During this time, he became actively involved in labor unions, advocating for better wages, working conditions, and political representation. Maduro distinguished himself as a disciplined and articulate union organizer rather than a fiery agitator. He believed that long-term political change required organization, education, and ideological unity. His work in labor unions served as his primary political training ground, teaching him negotiation, mobilization, and loyalty to collective leadership. The political crisis of the 1980s and the Caracazo. During the 1980s, Venezuela entered a period of economic decline. Falling oil prices, foreign debt, and austerity measures led to widespread dissatisfaction. This culminated in the Caracazo uprising of February 1989, when mass protests erupted against neoliberal reforms imposed by President Carlos Andrés Pérez. The government's violent suppression of the protests resulted in hundreds, possibly thousands, of deaths. For Maduro and many leftists, the Caracazo proved that Venezuela's political system was fundamentally unjust and incapable of reform. It radicalized a generation and strengthened calls for revolutionary change. Connection to revolutionary movements and Hugo Chavez. In the early 1990s, Maduro became increasingly connected to underground leftist networks and revolutionary circles. Though not a military officer, he supported the idea of civil-military unity as a path to political transformation. In 1992, Lieutenant Colonel Hugo Chavez led two failed coup attempts against the Venezuelan government. Although the coups failed militarily, Chavez emerged as a national figure. Maduro strongly supported Chavez, seeing him as a symbol of resistance against elite rule. After Chavez's release from prison in 1994, Maduro joined his political movement, helping organize grassroots support and spread Bolivarian ideology. Chavez valued Maduro's loyalty, discipline, and ideological commitment. Entry into electoral politics. 1998 to 2005. In 1998, Hugo Chavez won the presidency in a landslide victory, promising to refound the Venezuelan state. Maduro played a behind-the-scenes role in the campaign, mobilizing workers and union networks. In 2000, Maduro was elected to the National Assembly, marking his formal entry into government. He quickly rose in influence and became known as a loyal defender of Chávez's policies. From 2005 to 2006, he served as President of the National Assembly, helping pass legislation that expanded executive power and advanced socialist reforms. Maduro's leadership style during this period was confrontational toward the opposition, but cooperative with Chávez's agenda. He viewed political conflict as inevitable and believed revolutionary change required firm control over state institutions. Minister of Foreign Affairs, 2006 to 2013. In Argentinio, Chávez appointed Maduro as Minister of Foreign Affairs, a position he would hold for nearly 7 years. This role significantly elevated Maduro's profile and influence. As Foreign Minister, Maduro strengthened ties with Cuba, Russia, China, and Iran, promoted Latin American integration through ALDE, frequently criticized U.S. foreign policy, advocated for a multipolar world order. Maduro developed close relationships with leaders such as Fidel Castro, whose governance model deeply influenced his thinking. He believed that centralized authority and ideological unity were necessary to protect sovereignty. Vice presidency and Chávez's death. In October 2012, Chávez appointed Maduro as vice president, signaling him as a trusted successor. Chávez was battling cancer and preparing for the possibility of his death. When Chávez died on March 5, 2013, Venezuela entered a period of mourning and political uncertainty. Before his death, Chávez publicly urged Venezuelans to support Maduro as his successor. This endorsement was critical in legitimizing Maduro within the ruling movement. Presidency and narrow victory, 2013. Maduro won the April 2013 presidential election by a narrow margin against opposition candidate Enrique Capriles. The close result reflected a divided nation. Upon taking office, Maduro pledged to continue Chávez's socialist revolution. However, he lacked Chávez's charisma and faced mounting economic challenges almost immediately. Economic collapse and governance challenges. Maduro's presidency coincided with Venezuela's worst economic crisis in modern history. Factors included collapse in global oil prices, heavy dependence on oil exports, currency controls and price regulations, corruption and mismanagement. The country experienced hyperinflation, shortages of food and medicine, mass unemployment, and a dramatic decline in living standards. Millions of Venezuelans migrated abroad. Maduro blamed the crisis on foreign sanctions and economic sabotage. Critics blamed government policies and authoritarian governance. Political repression and protests. Large-scale protests erupted in 2014, 2017, and later years. Maduro's government responded with arrests, military deployments, and restrictions on media and opposition parties. Human rights organizations accused his government of abuses, while Maduro argued that strong measures were necessary to preserve stability and sovereignty. Disputed elections and international isolation. Maduro won re-election in 2018. But the vote was widely criticized as unfair. Many countries refused to recognize the results. In 2019, opposition leader Juan Guaidó declared himself interim president, receiving international support. Despite this, Maduro retained control over the military, judiciary, and state institutions. Later years and policy adjustments. Facing severe economic pressure, Maduro gradually relaxed some socialist policies, allowing limited private enterprise and dollarization. These measures stabilized parts of the economy but increased inequality. He strengthened ties with non-Western allies and continued to resist international pressure. Personal life and beliefs. Maduro is married to Cilia Flores, a powerful political figure. He often speaks about spirituality and has claimed mystical experiences involving Hugo Chávez, reflecting a blend of ideology and personal belief. Legacy and historical debate. Nicolás Maduro's legacy is deeply contested. Supporters view him as a symbol of resistance and continuity of socialist ideals. Critics see him as responsible for economic collapse, authoritarianism, and humanitarian crisis. From bus driver to president, Nicolás Maduro's life reflects the turbulent history of modern Venezuela. His rule represents a defining era marked by crisis, conflict, and ideological struggle. Whether history judges him as a defender of sovereignty or a failed authoritarian leader remains an open question. If the video is helpful for you, subscribe our channel, like and comment about this tutorial.